want to be rich or do you want to be wealthy? Here's the difference. Rich people have money. Wealthy people, they have time to spend that money. Regardless of whether you want to be rich or you want to be wealthy, I'm so happy and grateful that you've landed on this video on Kim Daly TV. Before we get into 5 strategies to help you become rich in a franchise, I'm going to ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you can't tell by looking at the number of videos that I've created, I love making videos for you. I want you to know everything that I know about franchising. Like and subscribe and stay tuned. I put out videos every single week just for you. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about 5 strategies to help you build wealth, get rich in a franchise. If you're new here, my name is Kim Daly. I'm a franchise consultant, and for the last 23 years, I have been blessed to help people just like you say yes to the dream to own a franchise business by aligning their background, interests, skills, finances, and life goals to some of the best franchise opportunities out there today. Now, if you get excited to begin your own journey and you would like Kim Daly to be your franchise consultant, stay with me until the end of the video, and I will share how you can be my next candidate. You're here to learn how to get rich in franchising. Let's talk about those 5 strategies that will help you. The first way that you can get rich in a franchise is to invest as an owner-operator. An owner-operator is exactly what it sounds. These are often low investment businesses that don't have a lot of stuff. What they do have is an owner who's willing to raise their hand, put in full-time hours, go out into the community, and drive that prospecting plan into the community. When you hear a low investment business is a home-based business, that typically doesn't mean I'm working from home. What it typically means is I don't need to take on the overhead of an office because nobody's coming to me. I'm going out into my community and selling my customers where they are. So think about a business-to-business opportunity. A business doesn't buy from marketing. They buy from vendors. They buy from salespeople who come in and build a relationship. If you are saying yes to being an owner-operator, you may invest in a business like this, where you are going to be signing up to do the sales, working with customers, fulfilling, doing everything. Now, you may be thinking, that's not for me. That's not my definition of getting rich. That's okay. Somebody else who's listening, that is your definition of getting rich. In fact, the business that I invested in 23 years ago, this business of franchise consulting, fits into this category. And as you can see, I'm very passionate. I love what I do. Franchising has completely changed my life and made me rich and wealthy. And here I am, still making videos for you, still loving being a franchise consultant. This is my business, an owner-operator business. Okay, that's option 1. The next option or strategy in franchising that can help you get rich is called an executive full-time owner. So an executive full-time owner is exactly as it's described. In this scenario, you are going to come in as the CEO. That means you're going to be hiring staff probably before you're even open for business. You may hire a salesperson who's going to directly interact with the customer. You may hire an installer who's going to build something that was sold. You may hire a technician who's going to go deliver on a service that was sold. You, as the CEO, are going to be the leader of the culture. You're going to be out in the community networking and being that brand ambassador and carrying the flag and sharing what you do and who you are with the community. You will have a team of people working in your business while you work on it. And this is where that expression, you get to work on your business rather than in your business, comes from. In the executive full-time ownership business, there's a lot. And I would venture to say that this category probably includes the vast majority of franchises out there. Why? Because franchisors want owners who want to be full-time, who want to put their heart and soul into the startup of the business. And I'd also say this category may also produce some of the wealthiest people in franchising. These are people who learned their business from day one, scaled that team of people from there. Look, it's much easier to train a manager or a salesperson when you've done that job before, or you're at least in the business enough to understand the objections, to understand the problems that are coming up. You can talk your employees through that. This is strategy number 2, executive full-time owner. The third strategy for investing in a franchise that can help you get rich is what I call the semi-active investor or the semi-absentee owner. If you've spent any amount of time on Kim Daly TV, you've heard me talk about semi-absentee and the many definitions that there are. The reason I'm so careful with the word semi-absentee or semi-active owner is it's left to a lot of interpretation, and that's where this term can cause a lot of trouble. A semi-active investor or a semi-absentee owner is a person who typically keeps their full-time job while they're ramping a business. These owners have to have great leadership skills, and they are going to rely very heavily on one key person. That's the first hire in the business. That's going to be your full-time general manager. If you've been a real estate investor, that a real estate investment, especially once it's up and you've got tenants in your property, is pretty hands-free. We would call that a passive investment, even though many people who are invested in real estate would say it's anything but passive. From the outside in, it's generally a passive investment. Well, that type of investment doesn't really exist in a business. In franchising, a business is a living, breathing, dynamic environment, and it needs a leader. There are decisions that have to be made on the fly every single day. If you are not there as the person whose money's invested in the business, then you need somebody who can make those decisions on your behalf. If you have a corporate job that affords you a lot of flexibility in your day, where you can be the one to make these decisions on the fly, or you can walk into the business and check on things during the day, then you might be able to be a semi-absentee owner or a semi-active owner in your franchise business. Again, you still need great leadership skill, the ability to invest your money and leave it in the hands of other people. You can see the semi-absentee definition leaves a lot to the imagination, and that is where things can really fall apart very quickly. We have to be very careful when we use this term and sort of dance all the way around it. You are the only one who can determine if you can be a semi-active owner. The franchise may say we allow it. Doesn't mean that you can do it. It means it can be done. The question I'm going to put back on you is, can you do it? It's harder than you think. When this is your life savings invested in a business, how are you going to feel when you're attending some crappy meeting at your corporate job that you don't even want to be there, and some general manager that you're paying is making critical decisions about the future of your business? You got to think through that now. I help a lot of people invest as semi-absentee owners. There's a lot of people out there who can't afford to quit their full-time job to dive into their dream. We have to build a bridge. I'm not trying to dissuade you. It can be done. I certainly have the knowledge of what franchisors out there allow you to be semi-absent. In this video where I'm educating you, I just want to give you little nuggets to think about. Before we open up our conversation, you can thoroughly think through, do I have the capacity in my current job to be semi-absent? Do I have the capacity inside of me to leave my investment in the hands of somebody else? Semi-active, semi-absentee, that's going to be the third strategy for investing in a franchise that can make you rich. The fourth strategy to investing in a franchise that can make you rich is what I call the build, scale, sell investment strategy. This is exactly as it sounds. You're going to invest in your business. You're going to build it. You're going to commit to multiple units from day one. When you agree to opening multiple stores, you pay for those franchise fees all up front. And that's so that the franchisor will protect those territories for you. You're going to pay the franchise fees, and they're going to put a pin in the map, taking those locations off of their map. Nobody else who's looking at the franchise can come in in and own those. Now, those are your territories. You may also be given a development agreement that would have some general terms around when those additional stores would need to be up and operating. The franchise wants you to have as much as you want. They also need to know on what time frame you plan to open them. If you're thinking, I'm going to open 3 stores in 10 years, and they're thinking you're going to open 3 stores in 3 years, there's a gap there. Clearly communicating expectations is important for both sides. Nobody's making money if those stores aren't open. That's generally why there's a development agreement when you're committing to more than one. If you want to build and scale wealth in a franchise, this is one of the fastest and easiest and best ways to do it, where you commit to multiple units from day one, still opening 1 store at a time. When you come in with that empire building mentality, you're way less focused on the first store. The goal is to get the first store up and operating, quickly move on to the second, and then quickly move on to the third. It's not about dialing into any one store. It's about opening a portfolio of stores, creating cash flow from all 3. If all 3 are in a consecutive area, you will have an economy of scale that you wouldn't have if you opened one in one market and another in another market. You would have a learning curve, but you wouldn't get the same economy of scale. What I mean by that is if you have 3 stores, and let's say they're all within a 30-mile radius of each other, you could hire one manager, promote that manager to a general manager as you open additional stores, and therefore you have one manager for 3 stores versus a manager for each store. That may be a strategy that doesn't always work, but it's a great economy of scale if you can get it to work. The other ways that you get this economy of scale or savings is in advertising expenses. So if you're running a radio spot, all 3 stores are in a 30-mile radius, you may only need to run 1 radio ad to cover all 3. Another idea is, let's say that you have a physical space limitation in each location. Let's say that in one location, you have to turn a customer away because you don't have enough room to serve them on the day that they want to come in. Well, you could say, listen, we own a store 2 miles away. Would you be willing to go the other direction and go there? That also works with moving employees around in case somebody's out sick or you have one store that's a little busier than another store. You can see there are various ways that you can cut costs, save money, and have this economy of scale that can help you feel richer, build wealth, and do it in a more efficient way. In the beginning, I said build, scale, and sell. Let's talk about the sell piece. This is something that a lot of people don't realize they get to do when they build a franchise. I think there's a myth out there that it's not really my business. I don't really own it. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is your business and you do own it and you want to own it. Equity that you're building in that business is yours. And if you don't ever think about putting a for sale sign on that and selling it, you're sitting on potentially millions of dollars. Some of the people that I've interviewed on my podcast, Create Wealth Through Franchising, they have said their greatest ROI was when they sold their business. Maybe the business created a great living for them all while they were running it. Then when they decided to package it and apply some multiple, maybe a 3 multiple or a 4 multiple, and sell it, and that 4 multiple took them up over $1 million, that's a pretty exciting exit strategy. I believe in beginning with the end in mind. I certainly have interviewed many a business coach on my podcast, and we have talked about how to build for a specific exit strategy. You might want to tune into some of those episodes if you didn't catch them already. Building with an intentional desire to sell this, and not just to sell it for a specific amount of money. Kim Daly loves to be intentional. That is the most intentional way to build a business. That level of control in your hand, that is satisfying. That is what everybody wants when they own a business. The reason that most people don't have it is it's only a thought in their head. It's not even a clear thought. And they don't ever take any action to try to figure out how to plan and strategize for that. The point of my podcast is to help you get strategies, is to help you get education and get inspired. Tune into some of those episodes where you see we're talking about building for an exit strategy value to get some tips and tricks, even a business coach who could help you do that. I wish it was me, but I'm not certified in that. That's why I bring in outside experts. I want you to have the resources that you need to build and scale the wealth and the business of your dreams. That is the purpose of Kim Daly TV. Build, scale, sell. Exactly how it sounds. That is a great investment strategy for many investors who have that empire building mentality, who have the time and the energy and the money to build something. And I will add one more thing before we move on to the fifth strategy. In the build, scale, and sell, may I offer an extra little piece of advice? If I were you, I would come to Kim Daly with this idea in your mind. I would say to Kim Daly, I watched your video and I'm really interested in some of those emerging brands that you mentioned. When you're thinking about building to scale and sell, it is my opinion that it may be best for you to look at an emerging brand. The reason is, number one, wide open territories. So if you're trying to buy consecutive territory, you need an open map. If a franchise has been around for any length of time, the map may be a little bit picked over in your area, and that's going to limit your potential of building out these consecutive areas. If it's a little picked over and there's enough left, that's perfect, because as you gain momentum, you could potentially approach those neighboring franchisees and ask them if they want to sell to you. And you could walk into an established business, add it into your portfolio. Boom, you went from 3 stores to 5 stores and you only had to build 3 from scratch. That could work. Ideally, you have this wide open map where you get to come in and really cherry pick. You get to carve out the areas where the customer avatar lives and there's the density of those customers in a geographical area. That's one of the biggest advantages to coming in to an emerging brand when you have this empire building mentality. But another really big advantage is when you join a younger franchise, the franchisor is really looking for you and that empire building mentality. They want to grow fast. They are going to look to you and even look for advice from you. As you're opening stores, they're learning on the fly how to do this. If you have been an entrepreneur before and you're a little nervous about investing in a franchise, it feels a little bit too confined. It feels a little bit too controlled. You're right. In a lot of experienced franchises, it will feel like that. Every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And I'm sorry, Mr. Young franchisee, we have our way and we prefer to do it our way. We don't want to be questioned all the time. That is how it is. And that gives a different type of investor comfort. If you're nervous and this is your first time owning a business, maybe you want all those I's dotted. That makes you feel like that investment is comfortable. And that's how you're able to say yes. But if you're more of an entrepreneurial investor, you've owned businesses before, or you're just generally a risk taker in your life, it could be a better environment for you to be partnered with an emerging brand that you have some say, so that you're working closely with the leadership of the franchise, really ironing out the nuances of this business and smoothing it out for future generations of franchisees. When you're doing that, I have to remind you, when you're coming into an emerging brand, you're not buying Chick-fil-A. People don't know what the brand is. Chick-fil-A has been around for 40 years. 40 years ago, nobody knew what Chick-fil-A was. Those pioneering franchisees had to lean into the leadership, had to be the first ones to deliver on that exceptional customer service experience that 40 years later, we come to know and love as a brand called Chick-fil-A. You have to be of the right heart and mind and have that risk tolerance to invest in an emerging brand. If you have that, an emerging brand could be the fastest path to building and scaling wealth in this empire building mentality. The last thing I want to say about the empire builder in the build, scale, and sell model is, if you want to sell this for some amazing multiple, this is also a reason to be partnered with an emerging brand, and especially an emerging brand that is backed by people that have built other franchise brands. When you have a leadership team that has demonstrated competency by building other brands, and they're coming into an emerging brand and bringing their leadership and development and franchising knowledge to this entrepreneurial idea, then that concept has a great chance of going and becoming the next big American brand as a rocket ship, okay? I'm not saying it will, I'm saying it could. When you are vetting out this idea and you're coming in on the ground floor, imagine as you're building out 2, 3, 5, 10 stores, the brand is growing and developing all across the US. You wake up 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now, and what once was a brand that nobody knew, everybody is starting to say, oh, what is this Orange Theory thing? I think I want to own one. Every big brand has a moment like that. And that's when members or customers of that brand are like, hey, I want to own one of these things. Now, all along, you were the one who developed this market. You tied down the market. When these customers or other investors who see this as the new trendy thing and I want to put my money into it, start looking for opportunity, and the franchisor says, hey, your area is already sold, that's when you can say, you could buy mine. You want to pay me 8 times my EBITDA? I'll happily sell it to you. I'm not telling you you'll get an 8 EBITDA. I have seen it happen. I've seen big fat EBITDAs happen in moments like this when the brand woke up and everybody wanted one and you own the most mature stores in a market. There's no more good territory in your market to buy. That's when sometimes franchisees can really cash out for a big fat multiple. And when I say you want to get rich in a franchise, this would be an awesome way to consider getting rich. I might even call that a wealth strategy. It's not right for every investor. The 5th strategy for investing in a franchise to get rich is what I call the legacy strategy. This is the strategy where what you are building and setting it up to pass off to your children. The reason I'm putting this as number 5 is because I think this is the greatest wealth strategy of the American dream. It is what every entrepreneur really wants, to build something that they can leave as a legacy for their children. That can absolutely be accomplished in a franchise. But here's some advice. If you're investing for the long term, I want you to consider the industry and even the specific brand that you're investing in. As we talked about in option number 4, build, scale, and sell. That emerging concept that doesn't have proof, that may be trendy, and that doesn't make it bad, but it makes it more of a short-term investment. When you're thinking for the long term, because you want to leave a legacy for those kids, whether that's 5 years away or 10 years away or even 15 years away, I want you to slow down and I want you to think about what kind of businesses will be relevant in a market in that time. You don't have to think about that on your own, because if you come to me and you say, Kim, I watched your video on becoming rich in a franchise and I want number 5. I want to be a legacy maker for my family. Well, I am going to bring you to this little tip. This is what I do as a franchise consultant. Just as I'm educating you, I want you to stop and consider every franchise investment is used by a different investor for a different outcome. That is really the point of this video. If you want to get rich or you want to build wealth, 100% you can do it through a franchise. But you need the right franchise for the goals that you have. Now, this is where I come in. As your franchise consultant, it is my job to pull out of you your goals and your interests, to use my 23 years of knowledge and relationship and experience and align all of that to the model that we build of you as a franchisee, so that I can curate this list of options and bring it down to just a handful that we can look at together. If you believe that you're ready to become a candidate in Kim Daly's process, I want you to follow the link in the description right now. I will reach out to you right away to have you complete some basic information, and we'll get on the phone so that we can start talking about your goals and your dreams, your definitions of becoming rich through a franchise or building wealth and the life of your dreams. No matter what it is, I hope that I get to help you. Please follow the link in the description right now. I can't wait to meet you.